Hello, this is Crystal Stanich, and thank you for joining me for this week's First Chapter Friday. Today I will be reading from Philip Smith's Irish Fairy Tales. Hope you enjoy. The Bee, the Harp, the Mouse, and the Bum Clock. Once there was a widow, and she had one son called Jack. Jack and his mother owned just 3 cows. They lived well and happy for a long time, but at last hard times came down on them, and the crops failed, and poverty looked in at the door, and things got so sore against the poor widow that for want of money and for want of necessities, she had to make up her mind to sell one of the cows. "Jack," she said one night, "go over in the morning to the fair to sell the Branny, speckled brown cow." Well and good. In the morning my brave Jack was up early, and took a stick in his fist, and turned out the cow, and off to the fair he went with her. And when Jack came into the fair, he saw a great crowd gathered in a ring in the street. He went into the crowd to see what they were looking at, and there, in the middle of them, he saw a man with a wee harp, a mouse, and a bum clock, and a bee to play the harp. And when the man put them down on the ground and whistled, the bee began to play the harp, and the mouse and the bum clock stood up on their hind legs and got hold of each other and began to waltz. And as soon as the harp began to play, and the mouse and the bum clock to dance, there wasn't a man or woman or a thing in the fair that didn't want to begin to dance also. And the pots and pans and the wheels and reels jumped and jigged all over the town, and Jack himself and the Branny cow were as bad as the next. There was never a town in such a state before or since. And after a while the man picked up the bee, the harp, and the mouse, and the bum clock, and put them into his pocket. And the men and women, Jack and the cow, the pots and pans, wheels and reels, that had hopped and jigged, now stopped, and everyone began to laugh, as if to break its heart. Then the man turned to Jack. "Jack," says he, "how would you like to be a master of all these animals?" "Why," said Jack, "I should like it fine." "Well then," says the man, "how will you and me make a bargain about them?" "I have no money," says Jack. "But you have a fine cow," says the man. "I will give you the bee and the harp for it." "Oh, but," Jack says he, "my poor mother at home is very sad and sorrowful entirely, and I have this cow to sell and lift her heart again." "And better than this she cannot get," says the man, "for when she sees the bee play the harp, she will laugh if she never laughed in her life before." "Well," says Jack, says he, "that will be grand." He made the bargain. The man took the cow, and Jack started home with the bee and the harp in his pocket. And when he came home, his mother welcomed him back. "And Jack," says she, "I see you've sold the cow." "I have done that," says Jack. "Did you do well?" says the mother. "I did well, and very well," says Jack. "How much did you get for her?" says the mother. "Oh," says he, "it was not for money at all I sold her, but for something far better." "Oh, Jack, Jack," says she, "what have you done?" "Just wait until you see, mother," says he, "and you will soon say I have done well." Out of his pocket he takes the bee and the harp, and sets them in the middle of the floor, and whistles to them. And as soon as he did this, the bee ran if you would like to know what happens next, you can check this title out on the Hoopla app. Thank you, and I will see you here at this time next week as I read from the first chapter of Cashel Mara by Susan Howatch. Thank you and have a great week.